Who you guys working for? Who is this?
It's SkateWine.
Oh, beautiful. Did you say SkateWine?
Hello, welcome to my first ever podcast, and thanks to our first guest, Paul-Luc. Hello, Paul-Luc, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? Good. Stoked to be the first #1 test bunny.
Yeah, thanks ever so much. Thanks for your patience. OBS is an absolute killer with its audio. The blooming video, simple as, but the audio has taken me a couple of days to finesse, and even with you on now, we've had a couple of technical issues. So thanks ever so much for waiting. I'm going to go straight into it. I remember you from the Vert series. I think I met you once at Mount Hawk, just when I started skating Vert, and this was. It must have been when you were about 12 or 13, because I think I'd started skating Vert around 18, 19. And I remember one of the first conversations at the time was I absolutely loved Ali Cairns. He was like one of my not prodigies, but like I'd idolised him. And he was your team manager at the time, wasn't he?
I think he might have been actually for Billabong.
Yeah.
Maybe. I can't remember, like, I didn't really know too much of what was going on because I was getting stuff from Billabong for a little bit. Okay. I think he was a team manager, but maybe a tiny bit. And then it ended up being another person from Europe. I think his name was David Pitchy.
Yeah.
But I do remember having a few sessions with Ali Khan's, and he did actually have us on over to his ramp one time. Me, Beckett. I don't know if you remember Josh Parr.
Yes. Yep.
Yep, him, a few other people. There was this like Red Bull golden ticket thing that they had.
Yep.
So we would go to like a few little sessions and then kind of win these prizes and get a session on Ali Khan's ramp that was like way out in the sticks. So I remember that. That's a long time ago.
That's so funny because that was my first kind of like introduction to vert skateboarding, was the Red Bull Vert ramp in Woolacombe, Gold Coast, for the Gold Coast Ocean Fest, and that's when I first met Ali Cairns and Dave Allen, Pete King, and kind of all people that I look up to and still look up to today. So were you ever part of the Red Bull demonstrations at all?
I did one, yeah, I did one in Birmingham actually. I think Ali was there. Who else? Like Zach Shaw, Sean Goff, Jim Skin. Like, yeah, there's definitely a few people there. But that was rad, just like to be a part of that demo in like downtown Birmingham. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And so where did you like grow up, and how did you get into like specifically vert skateboarding?
Yeah, that's interesting because where I grew up at the time, there wasn't really any vert happenings going on. There was a small ramp in Norwich. That's where I grew up, about 10 minutes away from Norwich. So there was a skate park called Urban Flight, and it was the dirtiest, dustiest skate park ever. Like, my parents kind of dreaded going there because they're like, oh, we're going to sit in this dark hole. Got to go walk across the street to get a coffee or something. So, yeah, it was just like probably asbestos in there and stuff. They had a 9.5, I think 10-foot vert ramp there. And I did learn how to drop that one in. So scared, but that was like the first ramp I ever learned how to drop in. But then that skate park very quickly got like destroyed and closed down. I don't know, it was like insurance issues or something like that. But those are my earliest like vert memories. I was probably like 9 or 10. And then after that, it was just like kind of messing around in the streets and sort of like goofing off a little bit. And then we'd heard about Epic skate park in Birmingham. It was called Epic at the time. So my mum and me and a couple of my best friends and my brother took a little trip there one Sunday, and I just saw the ramp in the corner. As soon as I got there, it was the first thing I saw, and it just like grabbed my attention, and I could see people, doing lip tricks and airs. It was probably Sean Goff and Jim Skin, all those guys, and I was like, I want to go straight over there. I'm doing it. Let's go. Like, that's what I want to do. So that was like my initial, the first thing I saw. It was crazy.
Amazing. And Sean Goff, it's weird because like Sean Goff was at I think at the same competition that I'd met you, and I remember just being like, whoa, that's Sean Goff. And it's so weird, even at my level of skateboarding, to have started doing events and stuff with Sean, and he's like the father of vert skateboarding. It's interesting to say Norfolk, because I spent like 4 years of my life, I don't know if you know the place, a little place called Castleacre, which isn't too far from Norwich. I think it's about a 2-hour drive, near Swaffham.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
I spent
Right.
some of my life like out that way. So another vert skateboarder, another amazing vert skateboard from that area is Sam Beckett. So did you used to skate a lot with Sam Beckett as well then?
Yeah, we went to the same primary school actually. Basically grew up together. So that's another funny story. I had this like we had this show and tell sort of assembly thing, and I'd made like a sponsor me tape type of thing at that Norwich skate park. And it was just me, messing around, doing little jump box things, mini ramp stuff. And in the video, I claimed that I skated vert, even though I'd had no like vert experience at all. I was like, I skate vert. That's what I do. And I showed that in the assembly one day, and then Sam Beckett comes up to me. He's like, "Oh, I had no idea you skated. Like, I used to skate. Like, we should, go and skate sometime." And he was a year older than me at the time. That felt like he's the big kid, and he's hanging out with his older friends, and I felt kind of intimidated. But I was like, at the same time, stoked that he kind of, come up to me because I didn't really have a lot of friends that skated at the time. So he was like, "Yeah, let's go and skate." And then it was, history after that. We just skate together all the time, every weekend, different skate park. And, luckily, with the support of my parents and his parents driving us around, got us to these places. And yeah, so it was, yeah, basically since primary school.
So what was your like local?
Fun.
What was your like local vert for you and Sam at the time then? Which place would that be? The place in Norwich?
Nothing. No local vert there, because by that time Norwich had closed.
Okay. So you were driving
got
to
that video out. So we were driving to basically Birmingham, Epic, PlayStation at the time, basically 6. I don't know what it's called now, but that ramp under the bridge, Peterborough. I don't know if you remember the Peterborough skate park.
No.
But they had a small vert ramp too. But yeah, it was just basically anywhere between 2 to 3 hours plus, to get to a ramp. So it was once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. But we go to the skate park in Great Yarmouth quite often too.
Oh, okay.
But they had no vert ramp. Like that was our, weekly session, just fun, skating streets, skating mini ramps, all that stuff. So
yeah, I think that's the thing with the UK vert is like for me, I lived in Bideford, and so the closest vert to me was Mount Hawke. So I only got to skate it very rarely, and so that was like a part of why I never managed to get into it at such an early age, because I started skateboarding vert with Mike Day when I was around 19. He was giving me lifts, and then I could drive as well. So that was kind of, and I still wasn't going every weekend, but like it was a lot more. And then we were doing the vert series and stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting. It's interesting that like people think that the vert skaters must live right next door to the vert, but usually you have to travel to get to one.
yeah, it's like most of the time vert skaters, travel to the ends of the country to get to a ramp, and you get to the session and you're like, oh, it's gonna have to be a good day today, otherwise it's a waste of time. Like the drive home is gonna be it's gonna be rough. But
do you get the jelly legs?
I think that's what makes everyone. What's that?
Do you get the jelly legs? I always remember getting to Mount Hawke, and for like the first half an hour, it would just be like the worst feeling of like just horrible legs.
Yeah, was that the original Mount Hawke too? The Masonite, the old ramp?
No, oh yeah, the smaller one. It was like 10 foot.
Yeah, they had a little smaller bit into the top part. That was actually Simon Tabron's ramp.
Yes.
So that was his ramp that he kind of like donated to the park. But
okay.
that was a fun little ramp to learn on.
Do you get to skate? Do you get to skate with Simon a lot out in California? I was going to say Mount Hawke.
Yeah, it's funny because I met Simon when I was like 10 or 11 at Mount Hawke, which is crazy that we moved here around the same time. I think maybe he moved here a year before I did, but we would ride together all the time. He's probably one of my favorite people to skate with because he just has such a unique approach to not only just like skateboarding, but kind of in general, life. And he was sort of like a mentor to me and a few other people actually. So it kind of sucks that he's not here anymore. He moved to Florida.
Okay.
So him and his family are living in Florida now. So he's doing well. Obviously, since he had the stroke and heart issues, he's doing a lot better and he's recovering. And I think it's a really good place for him to be right now.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of chilling and taking it easy.
I love that about.
Yeah, we would skate. Yeah.
I love that about skateboarding. Well, extreme sports in general is like this, like crossover. Because he's not a skateboarder, he's a BMXer, And the Mount Hawk
Yeah.
lot all have high respect for Simon as well. So I'm not surprised to hear that from you. I never actually, I think I saw him on the Mount Hawk vert ramp a couple of times, but never actually spoke to him. So
Uh-huh.
it's like I always hear things about Simon through other people.
Yeah, he would hang out with like probably more skateboarders than BMXers. So he got to be a part of, the whole contest and demo circuit and sort of really get an insight into how skateboards work. So he would be able to watch, I don't know, someone like Bucky do a McTwist and be like, oh, this is what he does. You try it like this. And that's pretty much how he, teach me. He taught me how to do a five. So it's kind of crazy.
Oh,
Just
that's
like from
so
what
good.
in his perspective, it was like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. So yeah, it's crazy.
Amazing, amazing. And how old were you when you moved out to America?
So I was about 15, almost 16. So yeah, next year I'm gonna be, or this year I'm gonna be 30. So it's like, yeah, 15 and 15 years. Like it's crazy, like the same amount of time living in the UK as living here. So yeah, that was the end of 2008, beginning of 2009. So it's been a while now. Yeah.
Wow. And what made the big change? Was it a skateboard career choice, or was it just unrelated to that?
So it was basically my dad's job. So he'd been gunning for this Legoland California position for quite a while. This is like a couple of years even leading up to it, just going through an interview process and everything like that. So he was the general manager at Thorpe Park. I don't know if you remember Thorpe Park.
Yes, yeah.
Theme
Been there a few times.
park, which is part of like Chessington World of Adventures, Alton Towers, that whole group. So he was working for Merlin Entertainment at the time. This opportunity came up, and he was just like, "Let's go for it! Like, you guys want to move to California?" We're like, "Yeah, of course." Like, I had no question about it. My brother, he was kind of just go with the flow, whatever, and we kind of just went for it. And he got the job after all the hard work and interviews, and we just went out here. I didn't even finish my GCSEs. I think I took the mock exams, and I'm like, we could stay here or we could just all move out together. It'd be a bit easier. Finish high school out here. So that's what I did. And yeah, it's been like that ever since. It's crazy.
That's amazing. Do you get free entry to Legoland then?
We did at the time, yeah. So, I mean, Legoland is like, I don't know if you've been to the one in England, but it's, yeah, geared towards the younger kids,
Yeah,
But there's something for everybody, There's the miniature world where you see the like mini New York and mini London and all that. Good food, good entertainment. But yeah, it's definitely more of like a kid's place, which is, a drastic change from the Thorpe Park. There's gangs of teenagers going around and kind of crazy London antics going on at the time. But yeah, it was a nice little change of pace for my dad. I think he really enjoyed working there. He retired like two or 3 years ago now, so it's been a while. But yeah, he really liked that job for sure.
Nice. So how old were you when you got your first sponsor? And I'm assuming if you were skating with Sam, you must have done quite a bit of comps and demos together as well during that time.
Yeah, we were traveling around pretty much together the whole time. I think my first sponsor was this company called Greed. I don't know if you remember it at all. Me and Sam kind of got hooked up at the same time. It was like one of those situations where the guy was like, "Hey, like I've got some boards and product in my car. You want to come back and get it?" And I was like, "Really? Okay, sure." And then we went over, and luckily it was legit, and we got hooked up with some boards and swag, and that was like, oh, my first sponsor, cool. But that was not very long lived. It was just kind of like free stuff here and there. It was really much appreciated. But I think what was my first sponsor? I think it was like Pig City.
Oh yes, yeah. That's amazing.
Pig City, yeah. First board sponsor. That was really cool. Andy Scott and all that. And I was probably like, 11, 12, something like that.
Nice.
Those are good times.
Nice. And so from then on, like, how is the progression within like did you ever see yourself as like, right, I'm going to be a professional skateboarder, or was it just like a slow, like stepping stone before you became like on the bigger sponsorships like Billabong and stuff?
Yeah, I don't think I ever really tried to, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a pro. It's more just kind of like you said, more of a slow pace. Billabong that was really cool, and that kind of transferred out here as well. Like I was able to link up with Rodney Johnson, who actually passed away a few years ago, rest in peace. But he would kind of walk me through the warehouse out here and pick up some swag. It was really cool. But yeah, it was kind of like more of a slow progression, not really thinking about it, and then sort of winding up in these like big contests. Like, oh shit, how did I get here? Do I belong here? It's like shit. But yeah, it was kind of like that easy, slow progress, and a lot of the UK stuff really helped with that. Like the UK Vert series and all the little contests there, that really kind of like geared me up to like skating contests and just sort of like getting a whole feel for it. And I actually really missed those UK Vert series contests because they were just really like sort of inclusive to everybody. You know, you had the B team, the A team, and it was just a really good weekend of skating. So
yeah, I absolutely love the Vert series. I do love the Vert series. It's just been such a like it's funny, whenever I used to go to the Vert series, it was generally when I was skating Vert, because I would be near, I just skate parks, and so like you'd turn up to the Vert series and I'd be in B group, and it's like I would literally be trying to remember all the tricks that I knew and then trying to learn tricks in the space of a day. And I think a lot of people at the time didn't appreciate that. They thought I was always skating Vert. So it was quite funny. And it was only until I went to Peterborough, actually, that I started really, I was going along with Alex, and we were just skating the Corby ramp quite a lot. And that was when I managed to progress up into the A group that year, because I was just skating Vert so much. But yeah, that's funny. So when you moved to Cali, how long was it before you met Hawk? And I assume, like, with the conversation about contests and stuff and demos, you've done a recent contest or demo for Hawk recently, haven't you?
Yeah, that was in September. Yeah, end of September. His Vert Alert, he calls it, is like an open invite contest they do in Salt Lake. They've done it for the past 2 years, and that was probably one of the best contests of the year in the last few years, maybe. Really fun. It's one of the only open contests out here these days, because it's like some of the other stuff is like invite only, and yeah, it's not very cool. But this is a really good event. Good to see a lot of like younger kids from out like all over the world come out and skate it, and then yeah, just be with all the guys like Jimmy, Frenchie, and Mitchie, all those dudes, just kind of throwing down. And at the same time, I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, this is like our generation of people. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm even here witnessing this right now, skating in the contest at the same time. Like, it was, yeah, that was a crazy event, really fun contest.
I think that's a good point that you bring up is like I said about Ali Cairns and Gold Coast. Gold Coast, and I still don't know how they did it, but they allowed, you know, the locals to come on. Actually, it was the mini ramp. They let the guys skate the mini ramp, and then they had the vert, and that was when you got to meet the pros and skate with the pros, and that was huge for me when I was like 12, 13, to be able to skate with the pros and just be like, wow, like Ali Cairns and Pete King. And it's definitely a NAS festival as well. I think NAS festival, generally speaking, you could, you know, get onto the vert ramp. I do remember being at a NAS festival with yourself as well around the same time. And it was just, it's that ability to actually meet people and see how they're doing tricks and stuff instead of being at the sidelines, I think is super important. So that's going to be interesting, especially with the Olympics. Like the inclusion of people who are just either coming up or wanting to learn about skateboarding. That's actually a good next question for you, which I hadn't written down. Did you ever think about or plan to enter the Olympics, or was that just not a part of your scene with being 2020 being in the Olympics? Because I did think that when I was seeing the Team GB and stuff, I was like, oh, I wonder if Paul-Luc's going to end up there. But I know that you're specifically more vert than bowl, and there's no vert in the Olympics. So,
right, yeah, I think I kind of hurt myself a little bit, like with not taking like bowl transition skating like seriously at all. I was just kind of, I'm a vert skater. Like, I kind of didn't really try to put any effort in, and then I'm like, maybe do I regret that? I'm not sure. But at the same time, you know, it's like vert is pretty much my thing. It's what I enjoy. It's what like takes my stress away, you know. So yeah, I did think about it at first, and I was like, oh, maybe I should do this. But then I just didn't put any attention into it, and it's cool to see it growing right now, and it's rad to see that Sam Beckett, he's a coach for the Team GB. That's really cool. Um, but yeah, I never really put any time into it. So I'm like, this is not, yeah, I'm not gonna go into this like half-assed, you know. So yeah, that's kind of my answer.
That makes sense. And
Yeah.
like with regards to like the progression into more professional skateboarding, I think especially with that year that I skated in Peterborough and I really wanted to progress into the A group in vert skateboarding in the UK. I noticed that like the more pressure I put on myself to become better, the less I enjoyed skateboarding. So how did you manage to deal with that as you like, especially once you got to California? Because I think that it's a lot more serious in California, and like there's definitely I'm going to be professional, I'm going to make a career out of it. So it's more driven. So how does it stay like fun and stress free, but also be like a career at the same time?
Right. That's a really good question. I think at the time, like moving out here, there was just like a lot going on, like moving to a new country, meeting all these new people, getting to skate every single day, all these new places. So at the time, it was just like everything was so much fun, and I didn't have a lot of time to think about like stress and, you know, like contest nerves. So those are really, really good years for me, like entering those bigger contests and just kind of like going for it, having fun. I didn't really care too much about, you know, how I placed or, you know, too much about that stuff. So as the years progressed, I get more and more stressed out at contests, and yeah, it kind of got to a point where I was sabotaging myself at these like bigger events and holding back. Yeah, that just really, I think maybe it just came with age and just kind of getting more and more into my head. So I've had to work out, you know, work on that recently of like just sort of getting outside of my head a bit more and just relaxing and remembering like, oh, it used to be different, you know, like I
Yep.
can still do this and have fun. You know, we're all just riding wooden toys. And I think that's how I kind of, yeah, get back into that zone and just have fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I tell people when they're trying to learn a trick or trying to do something that's stressful. Is like for me now, I think it was around the time I was about 28, 29. I was like, hang on a second. I need to make sure that number one, I'm having fun with skateboarding, and number two, I'm then trying to like progress a little bit. So yeah, that's super
Yeah.
interesting. The other one that we skipped over was how old were you when you met Tony Hawks?
Oh, yeah. I was actually 14. It was out here, actually. We came out to do the amateur X Games they had at the time. They just did an amateur vert competition, which is really cool. We got to skate on the same ramp, you know, pretty much skate with the pros as well, like we were talking about earlier. And I think he had seen me there, maybe. Maybe he was commentating, I'm not sure. But he just kind of took me aside and was like, hey, you want to come and skate the ramp? How long are you in town for? I'm like, oh, we're going home tomorrow. And then he's like, well, come by tomorrow before your flight and, you know, we'll line up a session. So we, you know, came down, got to skate the ramp, which is amazing. I was like, this is insane. Perfect smooth ramp. Yeah, I didn't want to leave. I had to catch the flight back to England that night. But that was the first time I ever met him. I don't know if he
Ah,
would like remember that, but I'd have to ask him if he remembers that. But no, it was really cool because just like an open invite to the ramp. And then, you know, after that, moving out here, a few years later, kind of getting to skate with him a bit more. And yeah, get to do these demos and events. So yeah, it's really cool.
no way. So you met him before you went out to California.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's amazing. So my next question is, what other hobbies do you have than skateboarding?
Other than skateboarding, I love to play music. I love playing the drums and just making music online. I really, really want to do more of that this year. That's kind of like my 2023 goal, I guess. Do more of the music stuff. Then other than that, really, just that, working out, keeping in shape. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much it. Music, skateboarding,
Nice.
trying to develop. Yeah.
How old were you when you started playing the drums? It's so funny. It's two other things that I absolutely love. Is making I make electronic music, and I also started
Mhm.
playing. I mean, I started playing drums before I started making music, and I think I started playing drums when I was 15. So how old were you when you started playing the drums?
I was about 9 or 10. So
Wow.
yeah, close to time that I started skating, actually, or started taking skating more seriously. So it was around that time they kind of like intertwined. But yeah, I originally was just kind of banging on boxes as like a younger kid, and my dad played piano at the time, and he's very musical. He plays piano, like guitar and drums, so there was always like music in the house. So I'd just be banging on these boxes while he was, jamming on the piano, and that was kind of the start of that. But then, yeah, I was like 9 or 10 where picked up a drum kit, picked up some lessons, and just kind of went from there. And yeah, it was like around the same time that goes hand in hand with skateboarding, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's something that I've learnt there is you started skating vert from a young age and played the drums, whereas I was late to both. So that's probably why you're so much better at both. What programs do you use for making music?
So I'm just using Logic Pro, whatever the latest version of that is. Just from stuff at home, just basic bare stuff, and I have a couple of synthesizers and drum machines, and then sometimes I'll record through microphones with some like live percussion and stuff like that. But very, very basic stuff. Nothing top quality studio, but it's kind of like all you need these days: a laptop and a few plugins, maybe, if that. Like you can do it all with basically nothing. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. Have you got a SoundCloud or anything that anyone could check out?
I do have a SoundCloud. Yeah, I think it's just under my name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I've uploaded a few tracks through there. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, that is my goal to kind of do more of that this year. And I'd love to, collaborate with more people and just kind of explore that side of it. And also play in my band a lot more. So we haven't really played any gigs in a while, but it'd be great to get back out there and play some live shows, because I think that's more fun for me than like the recording side of it. It's just playing live. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, definitely. And I was going to go on to your band stuff. So before, I'm assuming that the stuff that like live gigs started fizzling out because of the pandemic. Were you doing a lot of like shows before?
Yeah, so it was just kind of picking up a little bit before, because we were like a relatively newer band. So we're just starting to get some gigs and get a little bit of momentum. And yeah, it did fizzle out a bit, like you said, because of COVID. But also we were just like, it's hard to get everyone together at the same time. We all have jobs,
Yeah.
Our lead singer is a nurse. Our guitar player is a X-ray technician. And yeah, we all have like crazy schedules. So trying to line that up, it's almost like skateboarding. It's like you just do it for fun, and it's kind of hard to get everyone on the same schedule sometimes. And yeah, it'd be cool to like take it to the next level, but at the same time, it's like, why, if you're not able to, like, financially, it doesn't make sense. It's like, just keep on doing it for fun, and then maybe we'll get there. But it's so hard.
Yes.
It's kind of, yeah, they go hand in hand. Skateboarding, music, arts in general. It's like, you really want to just keep it fun, but at the same time, it'd be nice to get a little something out of it, but you can't really expect anything these days. It's tough.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something with like skateboarding, and something we mentioned about the podcast previously, is that with skateboarding, you can just pick up a skateboard and then just go skateboarding, and you don't have to rely on anyone. You can skate on your own, and you can just get on with it. Whereas like with like band stuff, I mean, I came from football, so like playing football, you have to like make sure that you've got a team and they're turning up and that they're also as good as you, or you're as good as them. So it's like so much easier to just have a skateboard or a surfboard, and you just can get on with it, sort of thing. So
it's your own world.
Exactly. What drew you to skateboarding when you were 9 or 10 years old? Why skateboarding?
Man, that's a good question too. I think like the first image of skateboarding I can remember is like watching somebody just like ollie up a curb. It's something as simple as that. I was like, man, that looks so cool. Like, I'd love to just be able to do that. And I think I was just, we were driving and I just saw someone on the street doing that. That was the first time I saw a skateboard. I was like, wow, that looks incredible. It looks so much fun and so freeing. Not like a team sport or anything, like you said, like you need a coach or anything like that. So that was that, and then also the Tony Hawk Pro skateboarding games. I was addicted to those growing up, and I think a lot of people have that same answer. So yeah,
Yeah, a lot
That's what.
definitely for Tony Hawk's and the Activision team that put that game together. I was the same. And the first time I saw skateboarding and wanted to get into it was on Live and Kicking. Do you remember Live and Kicking?
No, what was that?
Oh, that was it. It was a kids' TV program. I think it was Saturday mornings.
Oh,
So I remember seeing it then,
okay.
and literally the guy was just ollieing, and I was like, like it was just mind blowing to me as a kid. I was like, he's just gone up something on something. I was just like, that's insane.
Yeah, I think yeah, it was all of that. Just like seeing people do it so effortlessly, and the style at the time, the clothes that people were wearing. I was like, oh, that looks cool. I want to be a part of that. Yeah.
Definitely, and that's something I think that you could say about yours and Sam's like ability on vert is it just looks effortless, and then when you try and have a go, try and get out the coping. At least for me, it's like so difficult. And I think that's the other thing is like seeing you at Norway last year, the level that you're skating at and the ability to make it look like you're not trying is actually insane and like such a skill.
Oh man, thank you. That I appreciate that. That means a lot.
So you said earlier about like that your in your band members was a nurse. What do you do now for work? I take it you're not just skateboarding.
No, no. I mean, it's been that way for a while now. I've been working a couple of part-time jobs for the last maybe 5, 6 years. So I'm a farmer at a non-profit organization, and so basically my role is to harvest or seed, grow, and harvest microgreens. And microgreens are the smallest kind of like herb uh, development of an actual full-grown vegetable. So you can get like carrot microgreens, for example, which is like very leafy small greens that taste exactly like a carrot, or onion or coriander. It's basically micro herbs. So I'm growing those in the greenhouses and then harvesting them and then packaging them up and delivering them to local restaurants in San Diego.
Wow.
So it's actually kind of a fun job for me because it's more active than just like a regular desk job. Get to be on your feet. I'm, dealing with soil, plants, herbs, everything. It's like kind of a relaxing job. And then going to talk to the chefs, seeing what they want. And then it's kind of like rewarding when I see them, oh, they're stoked on this green for this particular dish and they want more of it. It's really cool. So I have a very good, flexible boss and people that I work with. So it's a cool job. And then other than that, just started buying about a year ago for a local shop in Oceanside called Surf Ride. And they're like a family owned surf shop, but they have a skate shop in one of their locations. So I'm buying all the shoes, the hard goods, apparel and stuff like that for their skate shop. So
Oh,
it's
amazing.
two pretty flexible jobs that allow me to still get out and skate. I don't know how long I can keep doing that for, but I'm kind of probably gonna go back to school to focus on something else and gonna start again in I think 2 weeks. So
Okay.
we'll see how that goes because I've been like very, very slow at that. Sort of got like an associate's degree, and then my goal is to get a bachelor's degree to maybe open up a few more doors and like kind of keep my doors open and keep interests alive. So because I've kind of given it up, gone back, given it up, gone back. But I do want to see if I can find something that like draws me in more because I know there's more that I can do. But I just don't know what it is yet. Just kind of experimenting. But for now, yeah, those two gigs help supplement any other skate event that comes up. So because there's nothing really going on right now, so it's
What
few and far between.
what were you studying, or what are you going to study?
So I was doing more along the lines of like kinesiology, so like physical therapy, nutrition, things in that realm. So I have a good head start on that. So that's I think what I will be sort of finishing up. But yeah, every time I kind of take a little break, go back to it, take a little break, I like lose interest and I'm like, is this really what I want to do? Do I want to just try and maybe do something completely different? I'm not sure. But I mean, that's a good problem to have. Like, I have options, I guess. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. And have you always been into gardening, like or like
No, that's a
veg?
funny thing. I've never ever been into gardening at all and had zero experience, no green thumb. So it was just a random thing I found online. Actually, no, my mum found it for me. She's like, "Hey, you're not doing enough right now. You can get a job." So she sent me this link to that little job description, and I was like, well, this sounds pretty interesting actually. It was called Urban Farmer. Like, what is an urban farmer? Like, that sounds cool. And so I just went for the interview, and then just worked out, and it seemed like a good fit.
Amazing. That's so good. That's so good. And how often with like work life do you manage to skate every week?
So that's a good one too. Like, I could, if I wanted to, I could probably skate every day, especially being out here, apart from these crazy storms we've had the last couple of weeks, which is insane. The weather's generally good all year round. So I could go out to a skate park, because there's plenty of skate parks in the area. But sometimes after work, I'm just like, oh, just want to go and relax. But I usually skate vert around like once or twice a week. But it's hard these days because the sessions typically happen earlier in the day when I'm at work and most people are at work. So it's like Jimmy and Shay and all those guys. I don't know if they know something that I don't, but they're skating in a day, and then I usually miss those sessions. So I get to the ramp at like 2 or 3, and like, might be on my own, might be with somebody. So yeah, it's kind of like hit or miss.
Whereabouts do you, dare I use an American term, but whereabouts do you reside?
I live in Vista, which is North County, San Diego. Yeah, so it's about 40 minutes from like downtown San Diego. Yeah.
Perfect. I've got a feeling that we're going to cut out any second, but my final question that I had down, which I think will be a nice thing to end on, is you tried to start your own podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of nuts. I think it was because of like the whole COVID, like people figuring out what they want to do type of thing, I should try this, try that. I was like, I want to start a podcast. It sounds cool. Like, I was really into podcasts and listening to a lot at the time. And I think I just wasn't wasn't ready for it. But it was cool. I did like 3, I think. And I learned, the whole process of figuring things out, making questions and kind of figuring out a little bit of a schedule for it, or just doing on the fly. But yeah, I would like to do it again at some point when I'm ready again. I'm stoked that you started one. I'm stoked to hear that you're starting one, because it seems like such like in your realm, like a SkateWine podcast.
Thank you.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's so much more difficult than I was expecting it to be. Like for the level that I want it to
really
be
hard.
It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
And it's like, I also wanted to stay in touch with you're not you're in California, but like stay in touch with the UK scene. I've got a couple of, I've messaged about 10 people, so I'm hoping to do about 10. And they're not just UK based. I've asked a couple of people in different countries to do it as well. Sean Goff is one of them. I'm hoping to catch him before he goes out to Australia for Bowlzilla. But yeah, I think that wraps it up quite nicely. Thanks for your time. I hope this has come out. Like, I'm going to have to check through and let you know. And then if it doesn't, I apologise.
Okay.
But the sound checks we did,
no.
all good. But I have so much respect now for people who do podcasts, because it is not just recording your voice. It's like, especially when you want to do recorded, like video podcasts, it's a different realm. So I'm hoping to get this up on my SkateWine. Hopefully to get an interview with Sean. Lizzie said she'd be Lizzie and yourself were the 2 people who got straight back to me, which I was not expecting at all. And literally you were like, this week, now, like on Wednesday, on Tuesday. And unfortunately I've had to postpone Lizzie's because I just didn't want to have the chaos of not knowing. On Sunday night I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and she wanted to do it yesterday. And I was like, I'm not. Like last night I had to prep. Like I wasn't even ready for interviewing anyone yesterday. So yeah, your drive in getting it done and having an interview is also like a reflection of how great you both are at skateboarding. So yeah, Lizzie, I'm hoping to get, I don't know whether you've heard of Flat Spot Magazine, but I'm hoping to get one of the guys from Flat Spot Magazine on. He also runs his own podcast in the Netherlands, but it's in Dutch. So I tuned into it, but obviously I don't know Dutch. I barely know English, so I couldn't really, I couldn't really understand. But
you're going to have to get Lars to help you translate.
He literally, I messaged him, I was like, could you be on my podcast? And he was literally giving me so much advice. He was like, guess you're getting on, let people know on social media. And I was like, I didn't think of that. And I was like, how much are you charging for this what do you call it, like a flipping management position that you're giving me? So yeah, really good. But I'm hoping this comes out all right. And thanks ever so much for your patience, Paul. And I think we'll leave it there.
Thank you.
I'll just conjure these together on DaVinci Resolve, and hopefully it's come out all good from a random room in Mexico.
I know the feeling, like you just want to get started and get it going on. So I'm stoked to hopefully help out a little bit. And thanks for having me as the first guest. I hope to come out over to Mexico soon. It's been a long time coming. I need to go out to see my brother. He's in Guadalajara, so I've got to like make a little pit stop.
Definitely, it's such a great place, and there's a really sick vert ramp they've got in Mexico City, which is huge. I think it's an X. Is it G ramps?
Is it Fishbone ramp?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
I've skated it a couple of times, but it's massive. It's like Mount Hawk. It's humongous. I think it must be about 14 foot, and there's not very much flat bottom either. So it's like you land something, and you've really got to land it, otherwise you're like straight up the other side. So.
Right.
Definitely, if you're in Mexico City between now and April, we'll go and skate it because it is a great vert ramp. Pontus was just absolutely smashing it. He came here randomly. So strange to be in Mexico City with Pontus in Mexico City in a vert ramp. It was like so surreal.
Yeah.
I was just doing like follow lines and stuff with Pontus. But yeah, definitely come out to Mexico City because Fishbone's sick, and like the guys there that run it are doing such a good job.
Right. Yeah, I look forward to that.
Wicked.
Really cool.
Brilliant. Right, I'll leave you there. Thanks ever so much, Paul.
Cheers.
Take it
Have
easy.
a good one. Cheers, Simon.
Wow, so that was Paul-Luc Ronchetti. Thanks ever so much. My first interview, my first podcast. A couple of things I'd like to iron out. His name, I know any graphic designers are going to be annoyed it wasn't center. It was slightly off center. I don't know if you can center things on OBS, unfortunately. But for a first attempt, as long as the sound has come out all right, I'm happy with that. So yeah, got Sean Goff coming up. Hopefully Lizzie Almento. If you've got any questions for those two, let me know. And there's a few others on the old list. So thanks for listening, and see you next time. Or listen next time.
Who you guys working for? Who is this?
It's SkateWine.
Oh, beautiful. Did you say SkateWine?
Yes, sir.